Hello, everyone, and welcome to #Onward Lebanon, a show airing monthly here on Lebanon Channel 6. I am your host, Todd Yohey, and I serve the Lebanon community as the Superintendent of Schools. #Onward Lebanon is designed to provide viewers with an insight into the Lebanon schools, its people, its students, and its programming. In today's first segment, I will be meeting with resource coordinators Tracy Funk and Lynn Payne to discuss how we are addressing obstacles to learning, and then Rebecca Strole will join us so that we can introduce a new program called Neighborhood Bridges. In segment 2, I will sit down with Lebanon Chief of Police Jeff Mitchell to talk about the strong partnership between the Lebanon Police Department and the Lebanon schools. Our first guests today are Tracy Funk and Lynn Payne. Welcome to #Onward Lebanon, where we're going to tell people about some exciting stuff happening in the Lebanon City School District. You are both resource coordinators for the school district. Can you tell people what you do for the district and, more importantly, what you do for students and families?
I think that our main goal in our positions as resource coordinators is to eliminate all non-academic barriers to learning, which would look like making sure that students have their basic needs met, both at home and at school. We do a lot of wraparound coordination, bridging the gaps between service providers. We also support success in the classroom by helping with behaviors, insight into what the family life looks like, and needs that need to be fulfilled in the classroom as well.
Lynn, can you give us some examples of what some of those barriers to learning might look like?
Absolutely. A lot, we have a homeless family. It could be just meeting the basic needs. It could be, I work extensively in the Warrior Closet to support the counselor in charge of that and volunteers. So just showing up to say, what are those needs and how do we meet them? It could be hygiene, it could be, like Tracy said, supports in the classroom, just showing up to support that teacher or take that off her plate and say, hey, let's just take this to a different space and see how we can do that. Excuse me. And so I think it's a lot of just the basics. And once you get those handled, then you can kind of move it to the next level.
So we provide a lot of services in the school district for students. And most of those services that we provide are focused on a student or a population of students. Your role with the district is a little bit different in that you provide services for the student, but many times beyond the student to their family members as well. Can you talk about that for us?
So there is a list that I go through with each family that we work with. I try to make sure that they have insurance. Sometimes that is applying for Medicaid, so that the student can get the medication that they need and the physical and mental health care that they need. We also assist with mattresses and bedding, because if a student is not getting a good night's sleep, they're not going to be coming to school ready to learn. We also, like Lynn referenced, hygiene products. Sometimes those basic items can help build a child's self-esteem and confidence level to be able to come into school and not be upset right off the bat.
I think it would be a good time to mention we get some help with the hygiene products as well. By who?
The Elks Lodge has started a hygiene closet for us, where we just tell them what we're out of and they refill it. So we have everything from body wash, shampoo, combs, brushes, lice kits, anything that they need down there.
So the Elks Lodge right here in Lebanon, helping out the students here in our community. Lynn, you mentioned part of your role is working with homeless families and children who are homeless. How many homeless children do you think we currently serve in the Lebanon City Schools?
Would Tracy said there were 32?
32
families.
And it hovers a little bit because sometimes they find housing, sometimes they move to a different community.
I think homeless looks, I think the picture looks a little bit different. I mean, they're not sitting in the park. You know what I mean? It could be where you're staying at a friend's house or staying at a hotel. So homeless has a different definition that maybe what some people might understand. And yeah, we do our best, and Tracy's great at it, and I'm learning a lot. And we're also able to be a voice for that family in the community. I think that's huge in the sense that you can be a voice for them in the school, you can be a voice for them in the community, and you can just really help support them in that manner as well.
I know we also have a population of our homeless families that are living in hotels.
Yes.
That's a pretty common.
Very common.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people that I am in contact with, that I have these conversations with, they're typically surprised at the number of homeless students that we're serving in the district. And you know, that population, as you said, you know, right around 30, sometimes it's a little bit higher, sometimes a little bit lower, but we've seen it gradually increasing over time. What are some of the challenges of a student who is currently homeless?
So typically in the situation where they're staying in hotels, there are 2 full beds in these hotels. We have had families of 5 living in 1 hotel room, so no one's getting good sleep in this situation. Just not having the stability, not knowing where they're going to be tomorrow or next week, I think that's something that the students carry with them every day until they find permanent housing. So a lot of the families that we work with are involved with Interfaith Hospitality Network, and they provide amazing case management, and they do a great job helping our families. But then, so they're very solid and stable while they're in with Interfaith, but then transitioning out becomes a challenge as well, because they have transportation while they're there, they have someone making sure they're paying their bills and doing what they need to do, and then they find permanent housing, and it's a true test of, can you continue this on your own without that wraparound case management?
Yeah, and I should add that, you know, there's this population of homeless students and families that we're aware of, but we also know there are many that we just simply aren't aware of because they don't make it known to us, or nobody else does. And while they're in that same situation, they may not be getting the resources because they're not making anyone aware of that. So certainly if you know of somebody in that position, or if you find yourself in that position, know that there are resources here with the school district to help you deal with that situation and hopefully move you into a better situation. You mentioned a couple things there about you know, lack of sleep, you know, single parent. Sometimes there are some drug and alcohol issues, but we've become a lot more acutely aware of trauma-informed care. So we hear a lot about trauma-informed care. And trauma-informed care has become part of our services, and it's a lot of what you deal with in your role. But what does that mean? What does trauma-informed care mean?
Trauma-informed care approaches, it's not just within the school, it takes the approach of assuming that there is trauma in everyone's life at one point or another that they're carrying with them. The piece that I'd like to talk about is the brain chemistry piece, that when the people experience trauma, their brains go off a line and they're not able to learn. That's the child that can't sit, there's many reasons that a child couldn't sit still in class, but if their brain's not online and they can't learn like that, then we need to the first thing that is necessary, excuse me, is making that child feel safe. Being transparent and making that child feel safe so that so that their brains can go back online and they are able to learn. Another big piece of that is teaching coping skills and coping mechanisms that are healthy and they are able to use within the classroom instead of having them pulled out of class, being able to put something in place in the classroom that will allow them to stay and learn.
Lynn, there are a lot of what are called adverse childhood experiences. Adverse childhood experiences that you know, children may or may not go through. What are some of those that can lead to a student maybe experiencing some issues once they reach school age?
Trauma looks different for everyone, really, and so what may be traumatic to me may not be traumatic to you. So there's 10 ACEs, and I think if you score 2 or higher, so it's a list of questions. It could be maybe verbal abuse in the home. It could be physical abuse in the home. It could be maybe a parent who has a drug or an alcohol problem. So things like that even though it's that child's normal and that's what they know, it's still trauma. And trauma can start as early as in the womb from what's going on if it's a domestic violence situation. So that child, even in utero, absorbs that trauma. So it's, I think that, like I said, it looks different for everybody. Everybody absorbs it a little bit differently, but I think you definitely carry it with you.
And I would say we just know so much more about the impact of those types of experiences on kids and their ability to learn and to process impact that it has maybe on their behavior, really because of something you mentioned, Tracy, which is just brain science. We just know so much more about the human brain and how it operates and how connections are made now, which is really beneficial to us in the education field because we can use that science and help students, better serve students by trying to meet their needs that are those obstacles to learning. I want to talk about kinship care. Kinship care is something that has grown dramatically in our community. I think people hear that term used sometimes, but what is kinship care and how do we provide services for it?
Kinship care is anybody who's caring for the child of a loved one. Generally, people's thought automatically goes to grandparent, but I've also worked with people, aunts, uncles, siblings, family, friends. So anybody's going to step into that role and take it over for a biological parent who maybe, for whatever reason, cannot take care of the child. It's a huge epidemic and it's growing. And personally, I've worked with a lot of kinship people, and I think the emotional support is number one because we get to help them figure out where are they on their journey. And then you need to step into that and say, okay, let me help you sort all this craziness out, and then we'll help make that next right step and that next right step. So I work with people from the day they've gotten the child and are like, I don't know what to do, I need custody, and I don't know where to start. So we take them through that process. Or I've had people say, I've had this kid for 5 years, but all of a sudden I need an IEP and I don't know what an IEP is. So they've oftentimes got to relearn a whole lot of things because generally their children aren't already grown. So, and there's not a lot of resources. So it's up to us to connect them to the resources that exist, and hopefully, as we go, collaborate with other agencies and create more resources for them.
And again, another population that we certainly know, many of our families who find themselves in a kinship care situation, but we also know there are several out there who are not receiving the services because we're just unaware of that. So again, if you find yourself in that kinship care situation, or if you know of a family that may be experiencing that, please suggest that they reach out to the school district because we have two wonderful employees here that are more than willing to work with you in getting you the resources that you need so that your student can be most successful at school. So I want to change gears here a little bit and talk about a new program that we've recently started, and welcome Rebecca Strole into the conversation. So Neighborhood Bridges is a new program that really is only a couple of weeks old here in the school district, and it's a way for everyone in the community to help out others. So what is it, and how do people get involved in it?
Neighborhood Bridges is an online platform that uses social media and our website to connect people that are in need with people that want to help. So someone who is in need comes to one of our advocates and explains what they need, and then our advocates reach out to one of us 3 area directors. We vet the need and then we publish it online, and the Lebanon community steps up and helps us to empower the families that are in need.
So I have seen some of the recent needs. I should add, I'm a subscriber as well. So,
Good.
so I get the messages.
Yeah.
I get the messages that say, here's
Yeah.
the need. Can
Yeah.
you help with this?
Great, yeah.
So I've seen, requests for some clothing. I've seen requests for some winter coats. I saw a request for a student who needed a suit for a job interview or for something. I don't remember exactly what it was. You mentioned mattresses and beds. I've seen those on there. And so it really is just a way for you to sort of gather needs that are out there and then communicate them out to our community and say, hey, here's somebody that's living in our community. They, for whatever reason, they have this need that they can't fill. Is there somebody out there that can help them? So how's it going so far?
It's going really great. Yeah, really quickly. Within a week of being on Facebook, we had around 500 followers. So like you said, people can subscribe through our website, neighborhoodbridgeslebanon.org, or follow us on Facebook, Neighborhood Bridges Lebanon, where we post needs. The process is really simple. You can click on a need and it'll give you all of the information, and you just click, I want to help. And then once you do that, it'll give you instructions to donate.
And of course, we want to recognize some other people who are helping and organizations that are helping, like Countryside
Yes.
YMCA, for example. They are a drop-off point, correct?
Donation
A
center.
donation center,
Yes.
so that people can take whatever they're donating to a specific need. They can drop it off at the Y. All of our school buildings
Yeah.
are also
Right.
donation centers, and I know that you're actively looking maybe for some other
Yeah.
donation centers.
The transportation department is also another donation center.
Our transportation
Our
department.
transportation
Gotcha.
department.
Okay, great, fantastic. Well, Rebecca, you're a parent in the district, you're a strong school supporter. Why did you volunteer to serve Neighborhood Bridges as an area director?
Well, as a parent, I knew that I wanted to be active in my kids' lives, and just one of the ways for me to do that is to be involved with their school. It started as just bringing in cookies for Valentine's Day, volunteering for field day, being a volunteer coach, being terrible at it. And the more I got involved, the more opportunities there were, and the more I learned about the Lebanon community. So I think that you can really get stuck in your own bubble and not realize how many people are in need of help. So once I heard about Neighborhood Bridges through Tracy, she's really the one that found this organization and brought it to us, and then the Lebanon City Schools have been really, really supportive to help us get that ball rolling. It just makes you feel good to know that you're making a difference in your community. And I know that my kids appreciate having that opportunity, whether it's helping a family for Christmas and, being involved, helping their friends, and taking a more active role in the community and in their school district.
So our hope is that Neighborhood Bridges grows to include hundreds upon hundreds of subscribers.
Yes.
Yes.
Who the only thing is they just get an email or they can check Facebook that says
Yeah.
here is a current need,
Yeah.
and if they can help, they click on and say I can help, and if not, they can refer it to somebody else or just ignore it.
Right, yeah, it's really good that you bring that up. We are Neighborhood Bridges Lebanon, but our goal is really to serve all of Warren County. So if you're in South Lebanon or Mainville or Waynesville or one of our surrounding areas, and you feel like, maybe I need help getting a bed, or maybe I'm a homeless family and I don't know how I'm gonna pay the hotel bill next week. There's no need too small or too large. Reach out to us. If you think you're out of our district, out of our school district, or if you think this is too much, I can't possibly ask someone for help. There's, what could happen? We're always going to try our best to help you. So come forward, come to us, reach out to us, and let us try to help you.
So Neighborhood Bridges started in the Columbus area. It involves most of the suburbs of Columbus at this point in time. Sycamore City Schools, I know, is another local school here in Southwest Ohio. And I know there are a couple of other schools that are sort of in progress of getting something implemented. Tracy, you ran across this program, you saw it, you said, my gosh, this is something that's so simple. Through the use of social media, it doesn't cost anybody anything.
Right.
And, but it's a way to, to get people the things that they need, really just to make it through the day and to be able to, provide some type of home life for their kids. I know some of the requests we've seen are from kinship care cases. And so I would really encourage people to check out Neighborhood Bridges Lebanon and see how you can get yourself involved in this way to make Lebanon a better community. Well, I want to thank all three of you for being here on #OnwardLebanon. I think it was very informative to hear about resource coordinators and what they're doing for our families, and really our most at-risk families in our district. And I know that it's making a big difference in the lives of our children. When our children's needs are being met, all kids' needs are being met, because there's just a domino effect of that. And certainly all three of your work on the neighborhood bridges, just a couple weeks old, but it's been very successful so far, and we're hoping that is something that continues to grow, and that maybe we reach a point at some point in time where nobody has any needs, right? Where nobody has any needs, because we're all sort of sharing resources and so on. So we hope to get there. So thank you so much for coming today and sharing here on #OnwardLebanon.
Thanks. Thanks for the opportunity.
Some things in your medicine cabinet are more dangerous than others. When it comes to prescription drugs, opioid pain medicines can be addictive and even deadly. Half the people who misuse prescription pain medicines get them from a friend or family member. Be part of the solution. Go through your medicine cabinets, drawers, anywhere you keep unused opioid pills, patches, or syrups. Find out how to dispose of them safely. Visit fda.gov/drug disposal.
How can I help my daughter with her reading?
Searching for help with Dachshund breeding.
No.
Let me try. Sarah's bright, but when she's reading, she has trouble sounding out words.
Playing world music.
What?
I give up.
Wait, I was trying to show you how Sarah feels every day. Frustrating, isn't it? Redirecting to understood.org.
Join parents and experts at understood.org, a free online resource about learning and attention issues to help your child thrive.
If you want to be a parent, it doesn't matter how you play, what you wear, how you dance, or even what direction life takes you. You just need to be there. You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care don't need perfection. They just need you.
Welcome back to #OnwardLebanon. Joining me now is Chief Jeff Mitchell, Chief of the Lebanon Police Department. Welcome, glad you're here.
Great, thank you. Thanks for having me.
How long have you served as Chief of Police?
So I'm just starting just went over 8 years as the chief.
How long have you been in law enforcement?
But I've been in law enforcement for just over 40 years. I started in the Air Force, so I was on active duty with the Air Force for 15 years. I served 4 years as a law enforcement specialist, and then 10 years with the Air Force Office of Special Investigations. And so I did that for 15 years, and then I left active duty to start my civilian police career, but I stayed in the active reserves for 10 more years. So I retired with 25 years of service in the Air Force. Then I started with Lebanon Police Department in 1998 as a patrol officer. And so I've been here 21 years, and I've loved every day of it. And again, very fortunate to be the chief for the last 8 years. And again, I love coming to work every day.
Well, great, and you and I have gotten to know each other since I've been here in Lebanon, and certainly thank you for your military service to our country, and thank you for your long civilian law enforcement career as well. It certainly has served our community very well, and I know you've done a lot of things along the way, and certainly the societal changes that we see in our communities impact our schools as well. And so, oftentimes we're sort of battling the same types of issues Yours may be a little bit more on the adult side, and ours is a little bit more on the kids side. But for every adult, well, I shouldn't say every, but for many of the adults that have to interact with law enforcement, there are children in the background of that, which in turn creates some issues for us. In our first segment, we were talking a little bit about trauma-informed care and how that can impact a child's academic success or their behavior and so on. So it is sort of all intermingled, and we want to talk a little bit about that today. And so. I think you and I agree, and it wasn't long after I started that you and I got together and met a little bit, and I was glad that you support strong partnerships with local schools. Why is that important?
Well, what makes us a strong police agency and what makes us a strong community is the relationships that we have with various aspects of what impacts the city the most. And I don't think there's any bigger organization that has a direct impact on the community than the school district does. And so it's important that we establish those relationships and maintain those relationships, because really it's through mutual trust, cooperation that we build on these relationships, and that helps both organizations. It helps the police department better serve the community by serving you, and it also helps with the school district faculty, staff, and students, because they're connected with the police department.
Very good. And I would also say, I just want to make sure people understand, when we're talking about schools, we're certainly talking about the Lebanon City School District, but we need to throw in Lebanon Christian as well and St. Francis, because all those kids are a part of our community. And it's important that you all, that when we're talking partnerships with the police department, that it's all the schools, all the kids in our community, not just the city schools.
That's true, and even the homeschool children. I know we do outreach to them as well, and we host them at the police department at times, and so yeah, you're absolutely right. There's so many segments of the school.
Well, we have several partnerships with the Lebanon Police Department. I want to talk about those. I would say that maybe the most important partnership that we've developed over the course of the last few years is the School Resource Officer program. And the School Resource Officer program is a partnership between the city and the police department and the school district that actually places a Lebanon police officer in our schools.
Yes.
And that really sort of serves as their full-time assignment, at least during the school year.
Right.
And we've been very fortunate that partnership has worked out very well. In your role as chief, how do you see that SRO position working?
Well, I think the school resource officer is a permanent presence in the school district. And although he is housed at the high school, one of his primary duties is to make sure that he visits all the different campuses, and that he's as well known at Bowman or Berry as he is at the high school and the junior high. So to me, it's important that the police department has a consistent message to the school district as to what our strategies are, what in our everyday lives are impacting the schools, and that we have that permanent presence in your buildings to make those relationships and solidify those relationships and maintain contact with faculty, staff, and most important, I think, is with the students, because they can see the police officer in the building, and they can gauge. I would rather them gauge our police agency by their contact with the SRO than what they read in the newspaper or the TV or see on social media. This is what policing really is.
And the primary reason, of course, for a school resource officer is a security safety piece, just to provide a police officer present at school in case there is an incident, primarily an incident of violence, and so forth. But as you mentioned, day to day to day, it really is about that, building those relationships, helping out the school administration when it comes to maybe dealing with some students that maybe there's an illegal act that the police get involved with. And I think that over the course of the last 3 years, that has really just become a very successful part of our safety and security program. And I know it's been a good a good message from the city and the police department to be able to say, we partner with the schools with this SRO.
Yes, so you're absolutely right. The overarching purpose of the SRO is to have that visual deterrent if somebody wanted to come to the school and do harm. And as there's a couple different components with that. There is that visual deterrent, but there's also that training and awareness message that the school resource officer, brings that consistent training application to all the buildings, so that all the faculty and staff and students hear from one voice. If something terrible happens, here's what this segment does. This is what students do. This is what faculty and staff do. And more importantly, I think from his perspective, explaining also what do the police do, right?
Yep.
It shouldn't be a surprise. So from a big picture perspective, that's his goal. But what forms the foundation, I think, for his success is all the other things he does, because that's what builds on it. So it's his day-to-day contact, it's his day-to-day presence, it's the relationships that he builds, and it's also the confidence, I think, that he exudes and then transfers to the police department, because we want to make sure that everybody feels safe, as I know you do, feels safe in their academic environment.
Absolutely, and it makes such a big difference in academic success when you can feel safe at school. You mentioned the visual presence, which I think is important. And I remember when we first implemented this program, our SRO, of course, drives a Lebanon police vehicle, and when he would arrive, he just parked wherever an open spot was.
Right.
And so, it was sort of in a different spot every day and so forth. And I would drive up to the high school sometimes and I would think, well, he must not be here today. But it was just that he was parked some of that. So I said, look, this isn't working.
Right.
We're going to get him the #1 parking space so that it's those.
Sure.
So when you pull into the high school, his vehicle is the first thing you see.
Yes.
Right there. So that's just that whole visual presence of knowing
That's right.
that there's a police officer inside that building.
Right.
So we appreciate that. We're always looking for ways to better protect students and to help them make good decisions. And a couple of years ago, Attorney General Mike DeWine, now Governor DeWine, put together a program to provide some funding to school districts for safety improvements in public schools. And so you and I got together and we decided to take advantage of that by purchasing and training a drug weapon canine unit. And so we implemented MAX a couple of years ago, last year maybe full-time. And so now we have a canine presence in our buildings as well, along with a separate officer who is the SRO.
Correct.
And so that certainly has worked as a good deterrent for us. I think it would be pretty silly for somebody to try and bring drugs onto our campus, knowing there's a drug dog present
Right.
right there. But also knowing that there's a canine unit present as well that can provide some of that safety and security for our students. So how do you think that program is going?
Well, I think it's extremely successful right now, and we've expanded, as you know, to also include vaping products.
Yep.
So we just see the whole vaping experience just skyrocketing, especially in our schools.
Yep.
And with our young people. And so we want to deter illegal drugs, we want to deter weapons, and we want to deter the vaping products as well. And the other advantage to having, in addition to the SRO, this canine in our schools is there's nothing better to kind of bridge a hesitation of a student or to want to talk to the police officer than a dog, and Max is certainly a dog you can walk up, with if the officer says it's okay, and pet him and and play with him.
He likes people.
He does. he does, and it's so funny because you can just see him when it's time to play, he plays. When it's time to work, he works. And but yeah, it's neat to watch the kids just interact with him, and I think again it just breaks down yet another barrier to having a direct contact with the police officer, and it kind of opens a dialogue if needed, especially in a stressful situation. If you introduce a dog, it just the dog can do his duty, but then one of those duties also might be just to calm people down.
Yeah, I will tell you through experience, and from time to time, students don't agree on some things, and sometimes that becomes physical at school. And so, as a long-time educator, I've been involved in my fair share of breaking up fights. But it's amazing how quickly those fights end when you just walk up with the dog.
That's right.
The dog's we're not sending a dog in to break up a fight.
Right.
But if you just show up
That's right.
and the dog's sitting there, that fight usually just dissipates on its own.
Yeah.
And we can take care of it much
It's
easier.
funny, an adult can command the fight to stop, and in a lot of cases it continues. But one dog bark and that fight stops.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and I've experienced that, so I know that's true.
Right.
In our first segment today, we talked with Tracy Funk and Lynn Payne and Rebecca Strole about some of the things they're doing in meeting the needs of our high-risk students and families. But we also have a branch of that that is a partnership with the Lebanon Police Department. It's a program called Handle with Care.
Yes.
Because students are with us 8 hours a day, Monday through Friday, and when they're with us, we do our best to serve their needs. But that means they're also at home or somewhere else the rest of the time that they're not with us, on the weekends and so on. And so there are a lot of times when something happens in a child's life that they experience. Maybe it's the arrest of a parent, maybe it's an overdose, a death, their home was burglarized, a fire. I mean, it's many things that would be traumatic for a student. And the only way we know about it is if a parent or a child shares it with us, which oftentimes they do not, or a neighbor or somebody lets us know. But when a child comes to school and has experienced that recent trauma, it really can impact their behavior at school. They're not engaged, they're distracted, sometimes they act out, and a classroom teacher or a counselor or a principal doesn't really have the whole picture. They don't know what's happening in that child's life unless someone has let them know. Well, the Handle with Care program is designed for police officers who have been involved in a situation like I described, to let the school know that, hey, this student's coming back to school tomorrow, and just want you to know something happened last night in their family. So, if they're a little off today or if they're not behaving, just handle them with care, right?
Exactly.
Handle them with a little care.
Yeah.
Where did that program come from?
So interestingly enough, this was a kind of a unexpected byproduct of the school resource officer program. Shortly after we started that program, there was a extremely traumatic event at a residence here in Lebanon that impacted a family with 3 or 4 children. And the officers who were there in the evening thought, we should let the SRO know, because these children were in 3 different buildings in the school district. And so they just sent an email to the SRO and said, "Hey, look, this is what happened. Please let the teachers and faculty know," because these kids were up late.
Sure.
They were told that it is our intent to make sure that they get to school. The parent. So the school resource officer went to each building, informed the principal, "Hey, this is what happened to with this child last night. So if you see that they're either tired or distracted, some of the same things that you mentioned, here's the reason why." And when I heard about that, I thought, this is a great idea. This is just yet another extension of what the school resource officer is really supposed to do.
Sure.
And so, unbeknownst to us, there was a program that existed, this Handle with Care, that was being introduced at the time in other school districts. And so, just as Warren County does, when they see a good idea, good people get together and put these things together. And so this Handle with Care is what we experienced in that one event, and it has expanded so that it's a, as I'm sure that they discuss, it's an organized approach to letting the schools know when something impactful happens to these students, because I agree with you that what happens outside of the school hours truly impacts what happens with those students during school hours.
More so than what a lot of people
Yes.
realize.
It truly is amazing. Yes,
it absolutely is.
Yeah.
So we've talked about some pretty heavy duty things here through the partnerships that we've done, and all have been very positive experiences, and I think has made our schools much safer. Certainly a much higher level of security, but also there are some other things that the police department provide for us. We talked about an SRO and our K-9 unit, but certainly we have other officers that stop into our buildings from time to time and walk around. They may walk around the lunchroom and visit with students and so forth, and that's just sort of some PRing from the police department.
Right.
But it also gives them some visual into the buildings and the layout of buildings and so forth, in case they're ever called into service. But I know our kids and our teachers and staff appreciate when the LPD come through the buildings. Certainly you all often will provide some event security, at athletic events, or if we need you to attend a large meeting of people and those types of things. So, that's always appreciated. And then, of course, as all school districts are in the state, we're required to conduct active shooter drills once a year. And, we've been coordinating those with you and the police department to make sure that we're all on the same page about what we should be doing during an active shooter drill. We, of course, are training our students and staff on the run, hide, fight, and it's the SRO's been involved in a lot of that. I know you've been involved in that as well. So, I just want to thank you for all of the support that you've provided to us in helping us keep our kids safe when they're at school.
What I encourage our officers to visit the schools whenever they have a chance, and a lot of times, we're invited in, or we're told of, we're doing, something special here in this particular building today, or next weekend we have an officer stop by. I know the officers really like the art projects where, they sit there and the kids draw their picture. And I think our other K-9 was there last year, and so yeah, and our officers really enjoy stopping by the school. They love to have that interaction with them. We do the touch a truck, and the kids just seem to really like our police vehicles. You know, I mean, they're big and and they have all the lights. And
well, what's not to like about it, right?
What's not to like? That is so true. And they love to sit in the car. And so, yeah, so we absolutely encourage our officers to stop by, and they're always so, warmly welcomed. And so that's huge. I think that having a police presence at the sporting events and any other events that you have, I think that, again, that just enhances what the SRO does every day. And again, the police department, it's an opportunity for us just to be in the community, and it's amazing what kind of again, public relations. That's really what we're all about. We want to make sure that people understand that we're there in the good times and the bad, and we really enjoy the good times. And then with the active shooter drills, I think that's such an important piece of our partnership. The active shooter drills isn't just something for us or something for you. It's something that we do together. And a couple of years ago, we outfitted all of our vehicles because of the geographic separation of the school buildings. We made sure that all of our vehicles each one has the equipment necessary to be the first officer on the scene and take whatever actions is necessary from that point. So, and that came from training exercises. We learn things each and every time, and our goal is to get better. So hopefully this never happens in our school district, but if it does, we need to have the confidence that we're prepared to meet it head on.
Well, and we certainly appreciate that as well. I want to thank you for the strong partnership that there is between the Lebanon Police Department and the Lebanon City Schools. I think that benefits all of our kids. I think it benefits our staff. It benefits our community to have that type of partnership. You and I often speak to each other,
right,
and bounce ideas off of each other. Sometimes we chase them, and sometimes we don't. But that's part of the process. And so again, I want to thank you for your service to our country again, and everything that you're doing as the Chief of Police here in Lebanon, and building and strengthening and maintaining that partnership with the schools.
Yeah, well, thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
Yes, my privilege.
Good to talk to you.
Yes.
Well, thank you for watching #OnwardLebanon. I hope you gained some insight into Lebanon schools and the people and programs that make us great. Thank you to Tracy Funk, Lynn Payne, and Rebecca Strole, and also to Chief Jeff Mitchell for their time. As a reminder, early voting at the Warren County Board of Elections has started for the March 17th primary election. You can visit warrencountyboe.us for dates and hours for early voting. #OnwardLebanon airs monthly on Lebanon Channel 6. To learn more about the Lebanon City School District, follow us on Facebook at Lebanon City Schools, or check out our website at lebanonschools.org. Until next time, take care of yourselves and take care of those around you.